The reason you probably became passionate about your product, your service, your business, whatever it might be, is because you had an experience. It did something for you and you now want to share that with people.
If I see the same ad on social media over and over and over again, if I'm served that same ad, I'm going to become blind to it. So I think it's important to not only change your creative and change your the way things look, but also where they're served and how they're served.
A lot of the most profitable marketing campaigns are not these huge, built-out, complicated things. If you have the basics right, you can be profitable and you can start with a smaller budget.
So it's very important that you always sit down and you have a strategic plan before you start throwing money, because you might throw $1,000 and it converts only 30 people, and you could have got that 30 people just organically without even spending money.
People gravitate towards passion. Right. So we can make the greatest, most analytical ad and strategy and all those things, but we can still miss it if we never went to the cutting room floor and said, what is it that we do here and how do we do it better than anybody else?
Hey, Mike Healy here, and welcome to another session at the Provision 2021 conference. We're so excited to have you here because I'm jacked, to say the least, about this panel of social media and marketing experts, and I've got a list of questions. I quizzed them ahead of time independently. They didn't know what I was going to ask them. I made them send me all separate answers so that because I wanted them to talk about their favorite things. And the purpose of what we're going to do today really is to make sure that you get a head start on social media marketing and marketing in general. Basically, how to build your business, how to get your brand out there, how to brand yourself potentially. And I want to make sure that you take notes, okay? So don't just sit there and absorb this information. Make sure that it's practical and you can take and use it right away as we get this information to you. So I personally have been marketing for probably about 11 years, primarily full-time. I've been an entrepreneur for many of those years, and I realized that there were some things that I was going to eventually have to learn to build my business, because I use this analogy that it's no longer a Blockbuster world. It is a Netflix world. Blockbuster worked at one time and it was rocking and rolling and everything worked great, but eventually Netflix came around and totally dominated it. And if you didn't catch up, you were going to get left behind. So I'm excited to introduce our panel to you. Okay, we're going to just jump right into here. I am actually going to start with Allie Travis. Allie Travis, please go ahead and tell everybody here a little bit about yourself, how long you've been involved in marketing, and then we're going to jump right into questions after that.
Sounds good. I'm Allie Travis, as you said. I've been in marketing probably about 25 years, which really shows my age. But I've been in marketing communications leadership for about the past 15 to 20 years.
So you've had a lot of experience doing this then, right?
Yeah, I've grown with it.
Okay, perfect. Dietrich Simpson, you are amazing. I've worked with you personally, and I know I've worked with Allie a little bit too, but Dietrich, you and I have worked together before in the past. It's been outstanding. Tell everybody a little bit about your background, how you got started, kind of thing.
Absolutely. I'm Dietrich Simpson. Work here with the ministry right now, managing marketing, do a lot of digital stuff as well as platform development. Have about 15 plus years experience in marketing. I've worked for hospitals, I've worked for startups as well. I've worked with brands like Ford, Bank of America. So really have done a lot of platform development as time has gone along here recently. And then with the marketing, like I said, a lot of digital stuff running, programmatic, display ads, just whatever the trends that are turning, trying to keep up with that.
Keeping up the speed,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
Did you ever work as a DJ by any chance with that voice?
I did do radio. I did do some radio. It was short-lived. It was in Africa too, so that is very interesting.
Get out of here, really?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So I did do a little radio back in the day. So I've been in the industry for a while in some form or fashion.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to go to Kirsten McKinney.
Yeah, awesome. So I run a digital marketing agency, and I've been in marketing for about 9 years. I love social media, so I do a lot of marketing all around the board, but social media is kind of my baby. I've had a lot of viral videos, built some channels, to bigger numbers, I would say, substantial numbers, and run campaigns, and that's kind of, I love all of the little nitty-gritty algorithm things and the stuff that makes it work. So
you're a nerd.
Yeah, I'm a nerd for
Okay,
sure.
that happens.
It's a good way to say that.
Excellent, excellent. And Mr. Tom Cassee,
I'm here.
we're excited to have you obviously on this panel because of all your expertise.
Happy to be here.
So go ahead and introduce everybody to you.
I'm Tom. This is my sister Kirsten. So she is a bit of a nerd. I can tell you that right
Back
now.
that up.
But no, but really, my thing is creative. So I've been involved in media and acting and film and music and stuff pretty much my whole life. But professionally, I've been involved in media for about 12 years. So I went to school to do marketing and business, and then kind of, worked my way up through there. And obviously, we've both been involved in this ministry, so it's awesome to be here. And I'm obviously I work with all of you guys in different facets and been connected with you guys over the years. So yeah, that's what I do, and I do marketing as well, but really creative is my thing. So media, I'm a TV guy, so I'll tell you about all that stuff.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so the next thing I want to cover is we're going to start getting right into the Q&A portion, because I want to ask you guys some directed questions based on what your strengths were. I did say that at the beginning that I was asking you guys specific things, and then I found some trends in that. That's why I asked each one of you separately. So I was actually marketing within my marketing experts, to say the least.
Inception.
Yeah, but I'm going to start with Dietrich on this one, just out of the thing, because I think that a lot of people don't understand this, and I'm going to have each one of you answer a few of these questions. But what got you into marketing in the first place? Because I think that's the thing. Like, what was the problem that you had? Okay, because we're going to then give people solutions. Okay,
Sure.
so go ahead.
Well, what got me into marketing? Marketing is figuring out the psyche of people.
Okay.
I'm a people person. I love people. Meet no strangers. So taking that, learning the psyche of people and translating that into something good, be it if it's a product, be it if it's a service or anything like that, and fulfilling a need. Marketing is pretty much fulfilling a need of somebody. Any form of fashion, be it a hospital, be it a ministry, be it a lawn care, you're fulfilling some type of need. So learning the psyche of people, learning the trends of people as time changes is what really got me into it, and that's my passion point. There's creativity, because you have to have creativity in marketing, I should say. So taking that aspect and being able to see the fruits of your labor when you're able to market, and you're able to see you're changing people's lives, and you're serving a need or a purpose, is what really got me into it.
Okay, perfect. Allie, I'm going to go to you with this one. So what was the problem you had at the beginning? Like, what was it that actually got you over the hump to say, hey, I need to learn marketing?
So mine wasn't necessarily a problem. I think it's just because of how I'm wired. So I think in pictures. And growing up, I noticed pictures more than words so much. So I would think about that when I have my own problems to solve. I was also very attracted to the old world style traditional ad agency, kind of Mad Men style ad agencies.
Yep.
Back in the day when they actually used clip art books and things like that before digital became a thing, was very attracted to that. So I think art and pictures, thinking in pictures, had a big influence on my entry. And then I just grew with technology throughout my career.
Perfect. Tom Cassee, I know we're talking mostly marketing here, but I want to know why you got into media.
Yeah.
Because all this goes around, and because I know what you guys said.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, to me, media and marketing go hand in hand. So for me, I had an interest in marketing in college. I attended marketing schools and took different classes, and I immediately gravitated towards that. I was like, I really like this. Like when they started talking about logistics and demographics and understanding your market, who you're trying to get your product to, and why you would make your box green instead of yellow because someone wants it. I like that kind of stuff. But then my history at the time of being involved in film and doing different stuff, I'd gone to Hollywood, I've done auditions, I've been in a couple movies, I had a record deal. Like that stuff was stuff that I had already been in from when I was young. I'm probably 16 years old, I started doing like music, like more professionally.
Yeah, right.
So, and I'm a little older than that now. But for me, it's all about creating something and then getting it to the people. And so from a performer, it was, my mom threw me into a bunch of stuff when I was younger, and at first I didn't love it, but I liked the reaction, the back and forth between I create something, I put it out on stage, or I make it in a video form, or I make it in music, and then you're impacted by my creativity. And then it's a back and forth conversation, because now you're saying, based on your cheer or your reaction or how you like it, now I'm like, yeah, we're talking now, back and forth. And to me, creativity is a form of marketing. It's marketing the soul. It's I'm expressing who I am. You're receiving that, or you're not, and then I got to change my market or change what I'm expressing, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of how I got into it, and I've been hooked ever since I was young.
Perfect. All right, Kirsten.
Okay, so for me, it was really, it actually doesn't have to do that much with the marketing side of things. I love communicating. I love, like, if I'm doing a personality test, I'm always going to be extreme on the persuasion side. When I was little, that's how I was. It's always how I've been wired. And I found out when I was very young that I could use words to persuade people towards something better. And that was a medium that I could kind of hone in for that. So when I was very young, I think I was 9, I had a girls magazine I would distribute at church every single week. I'd collect articles from my friends. You know, it was written terribly, but we put it out every single week. And,
Awesome.
you know, writing about the weddings that happened at church, things like that. And I just found, like, I could package communication in a way that people would digest it better, they would understand it better. So, you know, writing kind of led into the bigger picture, because writing can only do so much, has to be packaged right. And one thing led to the next, where, you know, I was like, okay, digital marketing, we need to have ads, we need to have graphics, and kind of the whole package.
Got it. Perfect.
I want to piggyback just one thing.
Yeah, go
'cause
ahead,
we're
Tom.
both pastors' kids.
Yeah, PKs.
And I just had this thought. We would be remiss to not mention the fact that our dad's also an entrepreneur. He's had a company for 30 years or more. Can't even remember how many years now. And that we both, marketing and communicating, what we both talked about, both of us use those talents in the church to reach people. So when you have that, both of us work in that calling where it's like, I want to reach people with my message of the gospel.
Amen.
And so that passion drives you to be like, well, how can I perform? How can I sing this song or do these things? Or, like, my mind's always outreach minded, and outreach really is marketing.
Yeah.
So I just had that thought. I just wanted to
It's evangelism, yeah.
Exactly.
That's exactly
It's
what
a package, it's a vessel, but really what it is we're putting a message in a way that people can receive it for today.
Perfect. So I think that's a great segue. What you're going to find out is that the best marketers, it's not necessarily a lot of times the platform specifically that does the job, but it's conveying a good story to somebody. Because when you can convey a story, and if you listen to what they had, what we're doing right now, in fact, is I'm asking the questions about them, about their past and stuff, is when you can convey a story, what you're doing is you're giving someone a kind of almost a subconscious experience that they can gravitate towards or learn from, or maybe if you were selling a tool, or if you were selling a widget, whatever it might be, if you can tell a compelling story, which is the most important part, I think. That's why I had to ask Tom about the marketing aspect, and you piggybacked on that you had figured out that, hey, I can communicate with people and tell stories. You had the same problems to solve. You were doing it where you were located and everything like that, that by creating a good, compelling story. So if I was to give everybody right now something to write down in your notes, is to figure out what your story is. And first, and another thing too, is make sure that you don't forget your own story, because the reason you probably became passionate about your product, your service, your business, whatever it might be, is because you had an experience. So it did something for you, and you now want to share that with people. So let me ask you this, Allie, I'll start with you on this one.
Sure.
When you're talking to somebody, okay, let's say you've got a client that's sitting down with you, what would be something specific based on the whole story model that we're tapping into, that you would start to get to? Like, what would you look at, and maybe what would you put together kind of for somebody and give them advice on? Like, okay, like that kind of thing. So if you were to come to me and I said, hey, I have a business, I'm just trying to get it off the ground. I really am passionate about this toothpaste, but I don't know how to do it. Okay,
Right.
What would you say to me at that point?
A couple of things. First of all, like Dietrich mentioned, what problem does it solve? We're problem solvers. How does it solve the consumer's problem? And the second thing is just to cut through the clutter. In today's environment, it's even more noisy, especially post-pandemic or mid-pandemic. It's even more noisy than it was before. There's so much clutter out in the environment. There's so much negative news and negativity. it's hard to get in front of the consumer more than ever before. Our attention spans are shortened. We're getting hit with messages so many times a day. So I think that story is really important. It has to be relevant. It has to be compelling enough to get their attention. And I think that's a big part of it, is just how to solve the problem and how to get in front of them.
Perfect. Dietrich, you actually put that in and down. I asked everybody, one of the questions I asked was, what are your top favorite things about marketing and social media that you would talk about? And your very first one was, what's your story?
What's your story?
What's your story? So I was like, oh, we're definitely on the same, everybody's on the same page. And it came that everybody had that. So when you were, let's say when you were sitting down with a client, kind of the same scenario here,
Okay.
what would you ask them? Like, how would you pull a person's story out to that and kind of storyboard it or put it together? That way they can kind of start to bring it to the marketplace. And then we'll get into the nuts and bolts probably here too as well.
Absolutely. The first thing that I would ask them is, why did you use the toothpaste, for example?
Yep.
Why did you create it? Just to find out their story and why they decided to do toothpaste. Because when you find out their story and you find out their passion point and you build that into their brand, and you're able to find their audience, then you're going to gain traction. So a lot of times I ask a lot of people, like, what's your story? Why did you create the toothpaste? How do you see your toothpaste impacting people? When you ask a lot of those questions, when it gets time to market it, you could be more strategic in your marketing, and you'll be able to reach that particular audience, and you'll create your avatar of that person that you're looking for.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you because that's
Okay.
perfect segue.
Okay.
Doesn't everybody need toothpaste? Okay, like can people hurt themselves
Correct.
by being too broad and thinking everybody would love what I have, right? And
Correct.
what happens? And you called it a what? You called it an avatar.
An avatar.
For those people who have not seen the movie Avatar, what that means in marketing terms is it's the identical kind of twin. What would you call it? Because I know
look-alike.
you're a look-alike.
Yeah.
It's a look-alike. Okay, so keep going with that real quick.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example, a great example. Everybody loves chicken. I love chicken, I guess, for me. People like fried chicken. So I'll use an example of a local company here. You have all the big Popeyes, you have the KFCs of the world, you have the Raising Cane's of the world.
Yep.
There's a local company here right now that has a story. Their story is that they help felons, and they hire felons to run their business. And that's their story, and they have attached their story to their business. They have amazing chicken. Obviously, you gotta have a good product.
Right.
They have really good chicken. It's called Hot Chicken Takeover is the name of the company.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And they started really small. They started in a very North Market where you set up your booth, and they started there, but they reiterated their story. That's how I heard about them in the story. I was like, really? I was like, I just want to go check it out and be a part of that. And they have grown. They have multiple locations here now. So that's just an example of when you attach your story and what makes you different than everybody else. When it comes to like toothpaste, what makes your toothpaste different than everybody else? By you creating the toothpaste, or by you selling the toothpaste, are you influencing? Are you helping maybe people in Africa? Or if there's a story behind it, your overall vision. So when you attach that to your services or your product and your passion into that, and you find that audience, then it's definitely going to be a win, and you're really going to tap into those people who are attached to your story and are like you.
Because if you can get people emotionally attached
Correct.
to a brand, a business, that type of thing, there's absolutely nothing trumps it. To be honest, it's people become what they call brand ambassadors in marketing. Okay, so I'm going to use that to segue over to Kirsten here.
Yeah.
About so let's say you and Dietrich were working together with your client. Okay, maybe the client was me and I have toothpaste, and he pulled out the information from me.
Yeah.
What would be some mediums or some things that you would put this on? Like, how would you help me to get this story on? And if you want to yell at Tom too, because he's a video guy, if you want to pull that in, you know what I'm saying? You know where I'm going with it. It's basically, what would you do? What are some platforms right now that somebody could get something started with?
Yes. Okay. I'm so glad you asked that. So story's amazing, but the biggest mistake I see where people take this advice and they misuse it is kind of imagine you're on a date and you're on a first date and you want to get someone's attention and impress them. So you talk, oh, I've accomplished this. Oh, I've done this. And that person leaves the date and they think, that was not fun at all. They just talked about themselves the whole time. They sounded arrogant. They didn't come across right. So many brands do that. They do it on their social media. They do it on TikTok. These new awesome storytelling platforms we have, and they just brag and brag, and they're talking about things that people don't care about. Instead of me saying, hey, I sell a compartment for your TV, instead I can say, oh, don't you hate how all the cords at your TV are all over the place? So instead of talking about us, we have to frame our entire story and really change our mindset. We are telling our story, but we're actually telling their story. We're really talking about what matters to them. We're only pulling out the pieces that matter. And even if I'm selling, a vacuum, I'm not just gonna say, and it does this and this and this. And I'm not even just gonna say, okay, well, here's why I started it. I'm specifically pulling out the things on social media and on, those Instagram reels. I'm putting it in a story where people are saying, oh, that's me. Oh my gosh, that's how I see it. So there's a couple of tips and things that you can do to make sure you're doing it right. If you're on social media, make sure you're using you. Is your verbiage talking about you, or is it all me, me, me? Are you showing a picture of your building and things that, don't matter to the consumer?
When you mean you're saying them.
Talk about them.
They're talking
right.
about them. If you do this, you will experience this kind of thing.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah. Because, and I'm going to go back to the date scenario. We would always much rather, if you're talking to someone, they ask you questions and then you get to answer. People want to feel heard, they want to feel understood. And it can feel a little complicated to do that digitally because you're not sitting face to face. How do you start that conversation? But really, you're just trying to create moments where someone says, oh, me too. Oh, me too. That's
Right.
exactly what I feel. That's exactly how, and so we're only including the information that's pertinent. We're limiting it down, we're keeping it brief, and we're focusing it on them even when we're talking about us. It's always, if it doesn't add value, if it doesn't show them why we can help solve their problem, cut it out.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's
so I don't forget. I want you to remember the word Yoda. That way I don't forget this part because I have to make sure everybody gets this. That you should be writing down. That you should be always in your marketing. It should be benefits of what they're going to get.
Yeah.
The benefits of what they're going to get, which leads me to the Yoda thing I just threw out there.
Yeah.
Is when you're creating your stories with your media, and I know you're sci-fi. That's why I pulled out the word Yoda.
Yeah.
Is most people, they currently see themselves as Luke Skywalker, right? A lot of times.
Yeah.
But they want to be the master Jedi.
Right.
How is it that you do it? And how could potentially me with my toothpaste brand, and I have no idea why I got on toothpaste.
I know, right?
But it sticks, right?
Are we starting this?
You will all
I know,
remember
right?
this.
Yeah.
But how would you tell me, just from maybe starting out with my phone, how would you kind of direct me to go from, hey, I did this to that? And it doesn't have to be toothpaste. It could be something else that you can think of.
Right. Well, we call that the hero's journey. So
Thank
if you look
you.
at
Yes.
most of the
Thank you.
most famous movies, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, The Matrix, all of the Marvel films, the Snyder Cut, DC just released not long ago, and everyone was going nuts about it. And the reason they liked that one better is it focused in on the hero's journey. Anytime you follow that formula, people love it. So what that is a hero meets a guide that presents them with a plan that calls them to action that results in success or failure. So Frodo has the ring.
Do it
break
again.
down.
I want you to go over those slowly because I want people to write them down.
So a hero, which
Hero.
you're the hero right now. Like if we're talking, we're marketers, and everyone right now through the camera, you're the hero to me. So if I wanted to make more impact with you, I would say, marketing's tough right now in a world of today. Like there's stuff going on all the time, so many messages, so many voices. But guess what? I know exactly what it feels like. I've been there. I've struggled with this for years. I couldn't get my business off the ground. But then I stumbled upon this plan that changed everything for me. And I'm going to show you how to do it. So right now, if you go to, and I give them that call to action,
Right.
I'm going to give you a free, whatever it is, and you're going to get a hold of this plan, and it's going to help you succeed, and you won't have to fail like I did for years. What I just did is you're the hero. I have empathy and authority. So I say, I know exactly what it feels like. For years I struggled. That's where empathy and authority comes from with your hero. In Star Wars, Luke Skywalker's the hero. He meets Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan has the empathy there because it's like he's been in hiding for years. He's this old guy. The authority is that he's a Jedi master. And then he presents Luke with the plan, like we need to go and teach you to be a Jedi like your father or whatever. And the success or failure is that the force will be out of balance. So that's how you make impact quickly with people. There's a company out there called StoryBrand, And I highly recommend everybody go check their stuff out. They don't do anything with it. This is just I don't get any kickback or anything like that, but I'm just saying their stuff's amazing. But that's the hero's journey. So I'll say it one more time. A hero meets a guide. We're the guide as marketers. The hero is your target market, and you're presenting them with a plan, and it's got to have empathy and authority in there. And you can break it down. There's psychological things that you need to look at. It's philosophical, psychological, and emotional, internal, philosophical are the three keys of touching people's hearts. So some people are going to be more, let's say your hero is a little more philosophical. Like, okay, well, with Luke Skywalker, well, is the Force real? That's a philosophical question. He feels like he's been left on this planet and he doesn't know his dad. That's the emotion. And then the internal things that he's feeling, or the physical, is I want to be more powerful. So if I were to market something to Luke Skywalker, I'm saying, I'll train you in the ways of the Force so you can become powerful like your father and you can bring balance to the Force.
I knew I could get some good sci-fi stuff out of you.
So that's the hero's journey. A hero meets a guide that presents them with a plan, that calls them to action. And we see a lot of people, and what Kirsten was saying, people a lot of times, they've gotten the call to action thing down a little bit more now. You have two sides of the coin. People that talk forever about their company and they never call you to action.
Yes.
And it just sounds like a run-on sentence of kind of like what I'm doing now, but with no call to action. But they're never saying what's in it for you. They're never saying, go do this thing. Like, you're just kind of waiting. You're being constantly juiced up, like, okay, but where do I get it? Where do I get it? And they never give it to you. You just leave frustrated. That'd be like if I'm on a date and I'm constantly saying, we're going to go have the greatest time of our lives and all these things. And then I never actually say, let's get in the car, let's drive, or let's go do these things.
Right.
Call to action.
You're just left feeling empty. Like, well, you just kind of misled me. So call to action. But something else is the other side of the coin is people that overdo the call to action, but they never did the empathy, authority. They never presented the plan. They just go right to order now. And then you feel off put because you're like, why did you, I don't want to buy your thing. I don't even know who you are.
Don't give me a wedding ring until we've dated a couple times.
Exactly.
There's a theme here.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey.
So, Allie, let's talk about that. Based on some of the stuff you've already heard, how would you add on to what we've been saying already?
No, I think that's extremely right on target, is that you're cutting through the clutter with irrelevant information, you're making them the hero, and you're having a call to action. I think the only other thing I would add is just diversification of where you share your story, to make sure that it's an integrated approach. We've always been told that, I think it's 7 times you have to see something before you actually act on it. I don't know if that's been updated or not. That 7 rule has been around for a very long time. But if I see the same ad on social media over and over and over again, if I'm served that same ad, I'm going to become blind to it. So I think it's important to not only change your creative and change your the way things look, but also where they're served and how they're served. So maybe you could do digital through social media. You could also do some Google ads. You could do an e-blast. You could do a radio campaign. I think it's super important to have that integration along with your story. And then my favorite thing to do is to test creative and see what really works, and see which message works the best with our consumers, and then make adjustments as you need to.
Okay, perfect segue. Thank you, because I was
You're
already
welcome.
thinking this, and I was going to Dietrich next. We're going on the nerd level. We're going boss level of nerd, okay? Because I think it's important. What people a lot of times don't understand is the fact that what I learned, a guy in marketing, he runs like one of the biggest marketing services in the world, and they do these conferences every year, and they're fantastic. And he said that if you're not making data-driven decisions, you're dead. And I never understood that, because back when I was a beginning entrepreneur, there was nothing to track data in most cases. Like when you're doing sales and stuff, unless you had a notepad and a pen and paper, that was the extent of it, right? People running newspaper ads or things like that. Well, I ran an ad, and then I don't know where the person came from. Did they come from the ad? So boss level nerds, here we go. Okay. What have you found with the ability to track data? How has that, one, changed your perspective on what you can do with marketing? And do you think that there's people that are lying to themselves about what their real results are when the data is telling them something completely different? So I know we're going a little higher on this one, but I think if you can get people to understand this, how important it is, how everything will come together towards the end here, but explain some of that, what it's helped, with your businesses.
Sure, absolutely. Data is key. Data should drive a lot of your decisions, especially when it comes to marketing, to digital marketing. I mean, you have Google Analytics, you have DSPs now, which allows you to track how your ads are performing. Right now, it's so much.
What's
more
DSP stand for?
Digital Side Platform.
Okay.
Yeah, which allows you to serve ads.
Yep.
So with saying that, the days of billboards and not knowing how many eyes are looking at the billboards are gone, which is a good thing for you. That way you can budget wisely, you can spend your money wisely on ads that are performing, on campaigns that are performing. So it's very key that right now you can look at data and make key decisions on where you're spending your money, how you're spending your money, what audience is the audience you need to go after, what audience is not the audience you need to go after. So right now data drives most every businesses. If you look at it this way, for instance, we'll go back to the dating thing. You're going to get married. If you get married, you're going to look up a wedding ring. If you go look up a wedding ring on Google or wherever, I guarantee you're going to get ads on social, on anywhere about wedding rings. So right now, that's where people can get data. And you as an entrepreneur right now, and you as whatever business, you have that capability to grow your business and target those people digitally, whatever space and whatever channel that you are in. So right now, data is key with everything. You can learn about a person. It goes back to the avatar. You can create your avatar of that person for your business. Hey, somebody that's looking to get married. You start getting venues, people targeting for venues because they have data, knowing what you've been looking at and what you've been tracking. It's kind of scary, but that's the world that we live in right now.
Yeah. It is as weird as it gets.
And it makes it where there's a level playing field. Back in the days, only the big companies could do that. Right now, no matter if you're a startup, no matter if you're a small business, it's a level playing field if you do the research, if you educate yourself. It's not that hard, it's not that complex. And a lot of these platforms, be it the Facebook, be it Google, they educate you and they show you how to run a lot of these things. So even if you were to hire somebody to say a consultant or hire a firm, I challenge each and every one of you to make yourself dangerous enough, if you do hire somebody, that you can have a fruitful conversation and you can know what's going on with the money that you spend. So that's just a little bit of...
That's perfect. Because I've told people before, some of these ad campaigns I've seen, it's literally a license to print money. And what I mean by that is, I've taught stuff before and I've helped put ad campaigns together where it was literally like $1 in and $2 came out, kind of, they call it funnels in marketing. All a funnel, and a fancy word for a funnel is really just, you hear marketing funnel. It's just the story journey. Correct. It's the hero's journey of taking somebody from point A. You find your semi-avatar, your audience. Yep. You get them to look at some stuff. You get them to kind of make a decision, build a little rapport and stuff like that. So now this perfect segue for you, okay? So you recently started your company. You've been doing stuff you've been being hired and everything, but eventually you kind of realize, hey, I can do this on my own. I can step out. I can probably become one of those big brands because you've gotten the education from all the years that you've been doing this. People don't realize it, but they can kind of start at a lower cost amount to get decent results. So how would you, if you were to take, and it doesn't again have to be my toothpaste brand, but how would you sit down with a client potentially, whether it was a small business or even a big business? How would you kind of adjust their budgets?
Yeah,
or get them on that strategy?
That is my passion point, and that's actually why I even started doing marketing, because I work with a lot of big companies, and that's great. They have a bigger budget, that's awesome. But there's a lot of companies out there who they're the business owner and they're doing their marketing. And I would guess a lot of you who are watching today, you're in that position. And that is actually my passion of why I even wanted to go, because where you're sitting is the most challenging spot to be from the standpoint of you're juggling so many things. And I call it social media guilt. You wake up and you think, oh, I should have posted for my business today. Oh, I meant to do that. And you just start to feel overwhelmed, and you see big companies, all the fancy stuff that they're doing. They may have all these really, really deep funnels and these crazy things, and you don't need that. Honestly, a lot of the most profitable marketing campaigns are not these huge, built-out, complicated things. If you have the basics right, you can be profitable, and you can start with a smaller budget, and you can build out. There's a couple of things that you need to keep in mind. So if you have a smaller budget, it just takes you a little bit longer for the testing. So if you have a startup company especially, that means that you have no proven sales, you don't know who your audience is quite yet. You may find out your website's not working, it's not converting people when they're going there. You may have to adjust how you're wording things or how you're positioning things, and patience is going to be the biggest factor. If you're patient with it, if you test something, and then you understand, okay, this is where I'm at, this is how much traffic, so it just takes me a little longer to know kind of where something stands. And then the next month, test something different. And the person who perseveres the longest and, does the research, gets in there, is looking at their analytics, looking at the data, it doesn't matter what your budget is, then you can win. It's just about, I see a lot of small business owners who feel like they can't compete with what big businesses are doing, so they don't try, or they will test out, they'll go look at someone else's landing page and they try to do basically the same thing. They'll put it out for 1 week and they're like, you know what?
Didn't work.
It didn't work. And it's like, that company that you're looking at has been around for years. They've tested that, they've gone through things, and you can't put it out for a week and then say it doesn't work. You gotta now start the real process, which is optimizing in the marketing world, adjusting things, and there's, going back to Dietrich, there's tools where you can even get as granular as video footage of someone on your website. Like, it'll record a video of someone on your website. You can see exactly where they stop, what they read, and what spot they were at whenever they click off. And it's kind of creepy, but it does blur out any personal information. And it's not like they know your name or anything. But, if you want, there's tools like that. Hotjar is one of them. There's a lot of them out there. You can really find out a lot of information about your clients and why they're not converting maybe. If you've tested out some of this stuff, you just kind of have to have the perseverance and kind of get your hands dirty, keep watching things, and keep testing different stuff.
And just to piggyback, if I could, off of
absolutely.
her, one thing with, once you get to that point, always have a strategic plan. Before you start spending money, sit down, write out a strategic plan of what your KPIs are going to be, which is your key performance indicator, meaning what's my end goal for this money that I'm going to put
Somebody
here.
bought my toothpaste.
Correct. There you go.
my 1 tube of toothpaste.
Correct.
Somebody
So make
bought
sure
that.
you have a KPI and make sure you have a strategic plan before you start throwing money behind ads and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's very key. And your KPI might be, I want to grow my email list. If it's working, then you've met the money that you spent, or I want them to buy a product. So it's very important that you always sit down and you have a strategic plan before you start throwing money, because you might throw $1,000 and it converts only 30 people, and you could have got that 30 people just organically without even spending money.
Right.
And I want to piggyback off that if I can.
Yeah,
I'm kind of segueing.
We're all getting
Go
amped up.
I know,
for
right?
it. Go
It gets
for
me
it. Go
excited.
for it.
But another thing that I see a lot is, you keep mentioning toothpaste. It's funny, my marketing school project for like my passing grade, we had to do a project where we created a product off something that already existed, and I did toothpaste.
Nice.
And so I took the Gatorade brand and I mixed that with toothpaste, and I said, why isn't there a sports toothpaste? So if you're listening, Gatorade, I have that stuff still. But I was gonna say, all that stuff's good, the analytics, the strategy, all those things, but I see a lot of companies, they miss the step before, which is someone already doing what we're offering? They don't look at market share. They don't go, are we doing it differently than anyone else? And that does come back to story,
Correct.
but also creativity, because if you let creativity lead your strategy, where you go, okay, first you gotta look at personality, and then passion equals promotion. So if I'm gonna make a promotion for a company, the first thing I wanna do is I wanna know the CEO. I wanna know the guy that is the part of it, like the passion behind it, because people gravitate towards passion.
Right.
So we can make the greatest, most analytical ad and strategy and all those things, but we can still miss it if we never went to the cutting room floor and said, okay, what is it that we do here, and how do we do it better than anybody else?
Right.
That's
That's
so
good.
key. Then you
good.
tie that into your
That's a
system.
great point.
Yeah.
I've always heard that you can make up for bad marketing with a brilliant product. You can't do vice versa. Like, no matter how good your marketing is, if your product is terrible, if your sales process on the back end, like let's say you're a service-based business and you're bringing leads in and you have no good system to now take those leads, talk to people, and close that deal, it doesn't matter what your marketing looks like.
That's good.
So probably the first place, if you, especially startup companies, or if you're really, really new to marketing and you just haven't even gotten in, start by saying, how good is my offer? And do I have a good process to walk people through that is excellent, that's gonna, on the back end, because there's just no fix for that. And you can I would encourage you, like, talk to friends. Say, hey, if I provided you this, this, and this, how much do you think that's worth? And if they hesitate and they're kind of like, if you mention a number and they're like, yeah, I'd pay that, then that's not where you want to be. Or you need to reword it in a different way that sounds, like you're adding more value. You want them to be like, oh my gosh, yeah, that would be awesome. That's a steal. And that's, you even just starting out with marketing and not having a lot of experience, you're going to see a lot more success than even someone who, has been in marketing forever and they're trying to work with a product that's not built out. It's just really hard to compensate for that.
And specialization it's created by knowing your product, knowing your market. You make yourself, you create that specialized content. Because right now, especially with social media, you guys all know this, but you move in such a world, I'll look at you guys out there, where if you're using a sprinkler tactic rather than a fire hose tactic, this is an analogy I use a lot, you're not gonna make a lot of difference imagine social media, the internet and everything is a very big stream that's moving very fast, it's rapids. If I'm trying to get the water that I'm shooting out there to make a longer impact before it gets pulled along the current, because people are just scrolling all day, that's the current moving, I have to have a very focused and very unique, powerful message.
Yeah.
And if I'm all things to all men, it doesn't work. It won't land. So a lot of people are trying to run their business pages the way you may run your personal page. And some of that's okay to a level, but you have to remember everything needs to have that same, okay, what am I doing as a company and how am I bringing that to you? So if I'm just posting me with my dogs or me with my car or whatever, I don't have dogs. I did, but I don't. I'm using that as an example. I see a lot of owners, they'll be like, well, the more they know about me, the more they're gonna trust me. That's true, but really you should be trying to get to know them, like you said. It should be posts that are tailored to the people that you're trying to reach. Yeah. So that exclusivity is key.
I was going to piggyback off of that, of what both of you said, is you have to continue the conversation. Once you acquire that customer, you have to continue that conversation and have relevant communication with them, ongoing, to their needs. You can't just say, okay, great, thanks, you bought my toothpaste. Continue buying it, but I'm going to go over here. No, you have to continue that conversation with them, continue to meet their needs.
I want you to expand on that because that's perfect
Sure.
for what you brought up. How would you do that? Like, how would you specifically communicate? And we use toothpaste because we're on that. I apologize to everybody for that.
I'm a big fan of surveys. I like to survey customers and get their feedback, what they're looking for, what they like about the toothpaste, what they don't like about the toothpaste, how I can serve them better, where I can meet them, and not physically, I'm not a creeper, but where I can where I can meet them on social media, where they spend their time. Are they a streamer? Do they stream their information digitally? Is that where I need to go to continue the conversation? But I want to find out as much as I can about my consumer and their needs in order to continue that conversation. Okay,
so that was perfect. I didn't even know it was coming. With the survey, which would help me to build my target market, my avatar, and I could look at those things that would allow me to create my story around the person that I'm trying to identify, and I could then put them on the right social media platforms,
Right.
which would all kind of bring it together. I was thinking about this while you guys were all talking, because obviously everybody has their own expertise, and I know that we're throwing so much information out. A lot of times it does feel like you're thirsty and you're drinking out of a fire hose, right? That is just blowing in your face, but that's okay. Have you guys ever outsourced? Okay, because sometimes it's cool to get educated on stuff. And Tom, I'm gonna throw this one right at you. You run the ministry here, which is enormous now. Like, I remember I've actually been a member of this church specifically for 23 years, I believe it is, right? And I've watched it grow from the true story of the little 40 people or whatever it was inside the old radio station to a global ministry that's been impacting. But in the beginning days, when you were little, and you were little, obviously as kids there, littler, right? You guys are littler, you're just young, compared to the rest of us. You saw that your dad had a vision to reach millions of people, and we can all say that. We can throw that out there arbitrarily. But I think the one thing that attracted me first and foremost to this church was I came out of the bar business, right? I was rough around the edges, to say the least. And this was like when I first came, when your dad spoke on some things, he taught on some specific principles that were real world things that were applicable that I could go and do, right?
Yeah.
And I started hearing this for a long time. Like he would say, hey, it's good to be a good person, but you don't have to put a Jesus fish on your car for people to do it.
Yeah.
Just be a good person. In fact, some people better rip the Jesus fish off their car, because you're road raging out there. And
Yeah.
But anyhow, your dad couldn't have grown this, helped grow this, and get the gospel out there to reach millions and millions of people that have, without outsourcing. And when I say outsourcing, it's bringing a team together, kind of almost, I kind of jokingly call it here at the church like the special forces team.
Yeah.
Of we have all these different ideas, like the pastor has the person in charge has the vision.
Yeah.
But then how do you get that implemented? And maybe that's how I can go with this.
Yeah.
Is how do you get that implemented?
I think it goes across the board, even if it's companies. You never want to be the smartest person in the room when you are running something. That's a key. Good. Because if I see this with business people all the time, I'm talking with a couple accounts because I love doing what I do here, and I'm the kind of person that I do all things all the time. So I did a movie last year while doing this.
It was in the theaters.
It was in the theaters. Your daughter helped with it.
Yep.
It was, a lot of us worked on it, but I'm always doing a lot of different things. I just lost my train of thought.
And you get overwhelmed by doing a lot of things yourself.
Yes, thank you. That's what it was. See, just like that. So as I see a lot of owners of businesses where we're talking to them and I'm like, hey, we can help you do this, 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 this. Or the church where it was like, pastor, we could bring someone in to help do this, 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 and this. And when you're small, there's this mindset where it's like, okay, these people are trying to pull one over on me, or there's something not right, I'll do it myself. And what you see is they take up more and more things until finally you're not effective as a leader. You see that all the time, probably when you try to market for people. They immediately assume that you're trying to cheat them out of something or do whatever, and they're like, I'll handle it myself. And then what happens? Your marketing's bad. You can't be a master of everything. Mm-hmm. So you need to bring in experts, like what we're doing right now, to help you. Like, would I be the best person to run your all your ad campaigns and everything? Or am I the better person to bring in before you even go there to say, what are you trying to market? How is it looking? What's the feeling, the passion? I'm going to be stronger at what I do best to say I can make you an ad that's going to knock people's socks off. But is Kirsten going to be better at running the campaigns or are you better at maybe crunching the numbers? Every one of us, even though we're all in the same field, we all have our expertise. So it's the same way with ministry or anything that you're doing. You need to surround yourself with people, even if you may be a master at marketing and you have a company out there. I've worked with all of you guys, but because I know that my expertise only goes to a certain place, I'd rather be doing what I'm good at and stay in my strength than to try to be the master of all the things. And marketing's become it's a very complex world now. There's a lot of stuff going on. So if you're running a firm, maybe you're not the guy to run all your ads. Maybe you get someone who's a wizard like you to run your YouTube ads and all the ads that you're doing and target people for you. And you can still be the person to say, this is what I can provide to you. So to answer your question with the church, it was a challenge because when you're dealing with God's, which by the way, all business, if you're doing it as a Christian, should be God's, it's a ministry, it's marketplace ministry. Amen. So it becomes very easy to be like, well, I need to do all these things because I want to make sure I'm doing God's thing right. And so for us, it was a challenge, and I'll just be transparent. I was in all the meetings, the conversations, pastors, because it's hard to trust people. You give people the reins, and not everyone works out. Jesus had 12 disciples, and he had people betray him. He had a dude cut a guy's ear off. Like the people, they spent time
chaos in the marketing team
with Jesus for years, and they still didn't get it. And so there's times in ministry where you can impart into people, pour into people. And I see a lot of times we want to try to raise people up to something we want them to be instead of realizing that they have a journey they have to walk. And what we have to do is look for the people that are called to be with us. But it's that feeling of like, I want someone there with me. And I see sometimes pastors on the flip side, it's like, so-and-so's a great guy and, we'll just use him to help us because we want him to be with us. You don't want to be left alone as a leader. But that may not be the person God's called to have with you. Then there's other people that are called, and then we shut them out because we were feeding the wrong dog, and the feral dog bit us, and now the other people are trying to help you, and then you're not letting them, and that's so key with ministry.
And I'm going to jump in.
Yeah,
on that.
go ahead.
I think that's the one important factor that I've learned in business too, is you can teach most people skills, right? The one thing I look for right out of the gates that's more important than anything is character and integrity.
Yeah.
Right? Because if they've got good character, they have your back is what that means. You know what I mean? Like the good character has your back on stuff. Integrity is doing the things they said they were going to do when they said they were going to do them. That type of thing, and everybody has to be tested in that. I mean, because I've literally had people that I guarantee you were atheists, right? That I would trust more with some of my business stuff than somebody that had a Jesus fish on their car, because I've watched the experience. I've seen them. I've interacted with, which is the saddest thing out there.
Yeah.
So that's why, and I'm not joking about that.
No.
I'm totally serious about it. That people look for that. You are a walking billboard yourself at all times about what you have. So, okay.
Can I piggyback off of the Tom real
go ahead,
quick
please.
when it comes to outsourcing.
Yes.
What he said was phenomenal. It was great, especially with you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. So with saying that, as for me, I can say if it's something that I'm maybe hiring somebody that may be an expert at, I'm going to do research and I'm going to know something about what I'm going in that room about. I'm going to ask questions, and I'm going to be dangerous enough. And if I end up being the smartest man in the room by just doing my research, it's not a match.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's very important that with whatever it is, if you want to be on TV and you're meeting with a TV station, just look at information about, how that works and, how much you normally spend on TV ads or whatever it is. So when you go, you can have a fruitful conversation and you can ask these questions and see. And if that person is the smartest person in the room, then you're like, okay, maybe we can work something out. So always do your research no matter what it is. Never get intimidated. If it's just where you can ask a couple of questions, that way you'll know if that person may be a match just from the skill set point of view.
That's great.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I know we only have a few minutes left. Allie, I'm going to kind of throw it out to you. What would you tell somebody? I want you to tell a newbie something and somebody that's intermediate. Like, give them a tip. Like, what would you say as far as if they're intimidated to get started, what would you say?
So a newbie, I would say know your audience. Do your kind of like everybody has said here. Do your research. Know your audience, so that you can have that conversation with them. To an intermediate person, I would say don't stick to your old ways. Be open to new technology. Be open to grow. Be open to different ways of doing things, because it's kind of like not being the smartest person in the room. There's always a better way. So be open-minded to that. Look for those new technologies, because it's only going to benefit you in the long run.
Perfect. Awesome. Same questions back to you. Intermediate and or newbie, what would you suggest?
For a newbie, I would recommend know who you are, know your brand. Before you get into marketing, before you get into spending money, be confident in who you are. Know your brand, know your service, know your product. Walk that out. It's a tedious process. Know what your vision is, short-term, long-term. You have all that information before you start getting into the marketplace and spending money. That's because if you're not confident in your brand and who you are, how do you expect somebody else to be?
Right.
So it's very important that you really know your brand. For intermediate, I would say, never be scared. Marketing, you cannot be scared. Right. So you have to take risk, smart risk. Most successful people take risk.
Yes.
But they're smart about it.
Yes.
So you want to definitely make sure that you take risks, have the infrastructure. That's very key. Because say if you've got your brand is great, and you start marketing and there's an influx of people that are coming and you don't have the infrastructure to support it.
Yes.
It could go bad really quick.
You can grow too fast.
It could grow too fast. So always there's always steps that you want to take. And just like I said, I think the very important thing is know your vision, short term and long term. And when I say short term and long term, you may be producing a movie and you want to have 600,000 people that want to purchase your movie. That's great, but have some short term goals climb the mountain before you attack that hill, because if you don't have some small wins, that hill looks like you will never be able to climb it. Well, through God, everything is possible, obviously. But with that, God put it in us where we will be strategic, we'll be smart, and we'll be good stewards of what we're doing.
Right. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Right.
Tom, intermediate, beginner.
Beginner, I would say find your passion.
There you go.
It's similar to what you just said. We're all saying the same thing, but
Yeah.
whatever you're passionate about is what people are interested in listening to you. And as a media guy and really leading marketing with media, which that's the world we live in now, I have a lot of people who come to me and they say, we're doing all the things right, but our stuff just looks bad and no one's watching it. So creative is important, but that would be for the intermediate. So I would say for intermediates, you may know the numbers, you may have all your stuff down, but look at what you're putting out there and look at what the market is telling people. Like, look at what your competition is and say, are we doing things creatively? Are we doing stuff that makes an impact? Creative doesn't mean more money was put behind it. Creative doesn't mean that it's necessarily better made. It's creatively made.
Right.
I've seen a guy take his phone up, and I won't say his name because most of you guys will know probably who he is. He was out there all over everywhere. He took his phone and he would literally just talk to his phone. There was no production quality in that, but he was creative in the way that he approached it. So for the intermediates, that's what I would say is you got to change the way you think constantly. TikTok changes the game. Apps are always coming and going. You have to always be adapting. For the beginner, find your passion, because you're not going to be able to market anything if you're not passionate about it.
Perfect.
Awesome.
And last but not least,
All right. For the beginner, I'm going to focus a little more on social, because I think we've covered it in a broad sense, and I know social media is a big thing that people get confused or overwhelmed with. So if you're a beginner, start simply by posting consistently. Ignore everything else. Forget about the hashtag strategy. Forget about the algorithm, because so many people use that as an excuse just to not do anything. You would be so much better just to focus on posting twice, 3 times per week. I'd say 3 times is a golden number if you're really just getting started to try to aim for. But even if you can't commit to 3, stick with 1 time. Whatever you can do, just start posting and getting your content out there. And then also my other side thing would be try free options. Don't always go for, people see these big companies with the automation and the big funnel and let's do paid ads. And sometimes that's not the best place to start if you're a newer company and you don't have, a budget. Knock on the free doors, see what you find out. It's a great way to test your product and test, your audience and learn some things organically in your processes. And then, once you've gone that route and you've put in the time, then kind of explore the free or the paid options. For intermediate, I would say you need to look into TikTok and Instagram Reels. Those I've seen over the last 3 months, huge opportunity. A strategy that works really well is build on something like TikTok. You may say TikTok's not my ideal audience, or it's not, where I want to build my brand at. But something that works really well is TikTok. You can go viral a lot easier than Facebook and Instagram, which have updated their algorithms nowadays. Use TikTok, get a 500,000 view video, quickly. Now send them to Instagram. Now do a giveaway or an incentive and get them over there. But use the new platforms, which it's kind of like getting struck by lightning. You have a better chance of getting viral content on Instagram Reels or TikTok right now than organically anywhere else. So if you're at the intermediate level, and I say not the beginner only because I think it'll just stress you out and you'll end up not doing anything. But once you've got the posting consistently, now start trying to figure out how you can tell your story through TikTok. And if you're selling a product, you don't just feature the product, put it in a story. Talk about why you created the product. And I've seen personally, brand new startups, first day on the market, put out a TikTok video, went viral, and they generated thousands of sales instantly from TikTok directly. So, just don't underestimate the power of new platforms and what free exposure can do, even beyond just going the paid route.
Perfect. Well, I want to just first and foremost thank all of you guys for being on this panel today. I thank you for everybody listening in and watching what we had. I think that if you understand that these are all simple things that people can learn over time. I mean, you don't, like I said a second ago, you eat an elephant 1 bite at a time. It takes a little process, but you can learn it. Don't be overwhelmed. Don't be intimidated by it. With God, all things are possible. I mean, all said and done, just occasionally get on your knees and pray, I need help, one of those things. And you just never know who's going to run into you that can give you this advice. So if I was to say anything to anybody is, if you'll do today what other people won't, you can live tomorrow like others can't. I've closed a lot of seminars with that, but I want to have everybody in the audience give these guys a great big warm applause for all their hard work. So thank you guys for being on here. Really
Awesome.
appreciate it, and we'll see you at the top.